present For the Record.
Right now, a story of crisis developing in Dodge County as prosecutors leave en masse.
I can't do the work of 6 attorneys and meet my obligations to my family.
Plus, a top elections official responds to accusations of racism. And later, a huge change to how taxes are levied in Wisconsin could be coming down the pipe.
It's just important to start the discussion on real tax reform in Wisconsin.
Welcome to For the Record. I'm Naomi Coles. A criminal justice crisis brewing right now in Dodge County this week as the last prosecutor in the district attorney's office is about to make his farewells, and he's the fourth and final of the positions to depart. That leaves their boss, District Attorney Kirk Klomberg, making the decision to resign himself. In a resignation letter to Governor Tony Evers, departing DA Kirk Klomberg had a stark warning. There's nobody left. Klomberg joins me now. Good morning.
Good morning, Naomi.
You're talking to me on your last day in office. What does that feel like? How long have you been in this office?
I've worked in this office for 16 years, first as an assistant DA, and then in 2010, I became the district attorney. I've been the district attorney for over 12 years. And how does it feel? This has been really one of the most difficult decisions of my life. I built this office with my partners here. We were very proud. We were leaders in policy, procedure, management. We had been training other offices, consulting with almost every other DA's office in the state over the past decade on how to run their ships. And we were very proud of what we've done here. This is an extremely sad day for me to leave this post, but I really don't have a choice.
So as I mentioned a minute ago, the last prosecutor under you is going to depart this coming week. So how did you get here? How did this office get here?
Well, we knew that we were going to have a series of retirements several years ago. We've been planning for this for about 6 years. And we came up with a plan as to how to make our office attractive so that we could attract that new talent when those replacements needed to be made. And we hit every benchmark in that plan. There were 2 other attorneys in the office that had been kind of holding on, waiting for to announce their retirement to hope that we would get through this transition. And without applicants, they saw the writing on the wall, and they just said, we can't hang on any longer. And they announced their retirements. And those retirements are about to hit. And then it was just going to be myself and one other assistant district attorney in the office. I went home after getting the notices of those retirements and tried to come up with a plan where 2 of us could do the work of 6 attorneys. I actually came up with a plan. It wasn't pretty. It was going to be real hard, but it was a plan, and I was willing to give it a shot. And we met to the following Tuesday after the last of those retirements got announced to me. In the middle of the planning meeting, she informed me that she had accepted an assistant district attorney position in another county. She was looking down the barrel of the gun with me, and she made a reasonable decision. Shorter commute, better working hours, better staffing, and I found myself to be alone. And that's part of the problem with the staffing crisis is DA's offices are fighting over staff with each other. And if you have a situation where an attorney sees that this is not the best situation for me to be in, they have so many options, and she took one of those options, and I can't blame her for doing it, because ultimately I did the same thing. And I called for help from the state. They told me there weren't any options available. I asked for assistance from the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice doesn't have a cadre of prosecutors sitting around waiting to deploy to DA's offices. They have duties. And they didn't have someone to send here for a long period of time. I asked for some help from some neighbors. They didn't really have options. One of them said they could send someone for a little while, but I recognized that wasn't a solution because we still don't have the applicants. And in a couple of months, those resources are going to get pulled back, or worse. Those attorneys who are going to be coming here working in a county that is not their own, for a DA that is not their own, driving long commutes, are going to say, I got other options, and then their offices are going to be in the same boat we are. So I said, that's not an option either. We can't do that. That's not a long-term solution.
What happens now to crime in Dodge County? What happens to victims? What happens to criminals? What happens to defendants when there's no process in place or no people in that process to move criminal prosecutions forward?
Well, we do have a couple of retired prosecutors that have come to the county now as a stopgap. And so there is somebody working in the office. But that's not, they're not full-time. They're retired. They're not looking to, do full-time work as in the very high stakes world of being a prosecutor. They're coming here to help out. So the arrestees will get reviewed, but long-term, these people will not be here forever. And if you don't have a prosecutor in place, the police can do a great job. They can arrest a dangerous offender, put them in jail, and within 48 hours, if they're not in front of a judge with a prosecutor reviewing the case, they're getting released. If a prosecutor isn't there to charge the case, which is required that an attorney make that decision and prosecute the case going forward, there will be no accountability. Those people return to the community with no consequences, no accountability, and quite frankly, that is a terrible public safety threat.
I mean, that's such a sobering outlook. And even as you mentioned, yes, you have 2 retired prosecutors helping out here going forward, but that's 2 people doing the work of, as you mentioned before, 6, correct?
That's right. And they're not going to be able to do that. We do have a county managing attorney who will be in the office for a little bit longer, but he's retiring on February 1st. So after February 1st, it's unclear what will happen.
So you wrote all of this. You got all this into your resignation letter that you sent to Governor Tony Evers. Have you heard from Governor Evers on this?
The governor hasn't called me. I don't expect him to. He made sure, or at least the governor's office, after getting my resignation letter, called the DOA and made clear that they needed to get some retired prosecutors in here. I wish that would have happened before I sent my resignation letter, but I understand that that's what got the attention. And I did that in part because I needed to force the state's hand for the good of Dodge County. I live in this county. There has to be resources in this office to go forward. And I can't do the work of 6 attorneys and meet my obligations to my family. I have small children, and I can't do that to them. They've made enough sacrifices for me to let me do this work as it is. I couldn't ask them to make that sacrifice, that I would just basically live at the office and not see them anymore.
Absolutely. Family has to come first. So I got a minute or so left. Let me ask you this, and this is going to be the broadest question I ask. And I say this having also covered the crisis shortage of public defenders around Wisconsin, as this is very much part of that issue. So how does this get solved? How does the prosecution shortage get solved? How does the public defender shortage get solved?
Well, it's a multifaceted problem. There are social issues that are discouraging people to become prosecutors. That's a longer conversation for a different day. But right now, what needs to happen is the $56,000 base salary that is offered to assistant district attorneys to come and do this work has got to get raised. That is not in parity with other government lawyers' positions. The child support attorneys here are making $80,000 a year starting. The corporation counsel attorneys are making higher than that. We can't compete. So the legislature needs to act. We've asked through the Wisconsin District Attorneys Association, which I am the past president, to raise that salary to $70,000 a year. That's still not in parity with those other offices, but it is enough to get people through the door who want to do this work. That has got to happen right now, and it has to happen this year in this budget. If we wait another 2 years, there will be other offices that collapse just like we did.
A sobering message for sure. Kurt, thanks so much for talking through this, and best of luck to you as you go forward.
Thank you, and thank you for taking interest in the story.
Absolutely. All right. Up next, a Wisconsin Republican election official joins us to respond to claims of racism.